Welcome, and thank you for joining us. Your support means the world. Quick question. Where are you listening from today? Which city? Which country? Drop it below. Now let's dive into today's story. The Seattle skyline gleamed through floor-to-ceiling windows as Enrique Dawson signed the final document that would cement his latest real estate triumph. The $50 million commercial development deal had been 6 months of meticulous planning, but he'd never lost focus on what mattered most, his family. Even now, his mind wandered to Ella and their unborn twins. "Congratulations, Mr. Dawson," Sarah Chun, his lead counsel, gathered the papers efficiently. "This will revolutionize the downtown district." The vibration of his phone interrupted his response. Marina, his personal assistant, appeared in the doorway, her expression urgent. "Mr. Dawson, it's the hospital. Mrs. Dawson has gone into labor." The gathered executives watched as Enrique's expression shifted from successful businessman to expectant father in an instant. He was already reaching for his coat when his phone buzzed again, this time with a text from his sister-in-law, Dora. Asterisk, Ella's asking for you. Something's wrong. Come quickly. Asterisk, Marina, get the jet ready, he ordered, his mind already calculating times and distances. Sarah, finish up here. Send everything to my private server. He paused at the door, turning to address the room. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll excuse me. I'm about to become a father. The 3-hour flight from Seattle to San Francisco was torture, even in his private jet. Enrique used the time productively, reviewing hospital documentation on his tablet. At 38, he'd built his empire through careful attention to detail. Today would be no different. His phone lit up with a message from Gordon Lehman, his attorney and longtime friend. Asterisk, called ahead to the hospital. Everything's arranged as requested. Asterisk, Enrique had insisted on the best private suite in the maternity ward, a wing he'd helped renovate through generous donations. The irony wasn't lost on him. His money had created the perfect setting for what should have been the happiest day of his life. The hospital corridors echoed with his purposeful stride as he made his way to the maternity ward. Nurses and staff nodded respectfully. The Dawson name carried weight here, as it did throughout San Francisco. His annual healthcare initiatives had saved the hospital's pediatric unit during budget cuts last year. Outside room 342, he found Dora Marks pacing nervously. His sister-in-law's usually impeccable appearance was disheveled, her designer blazer wrinkled, her hands twisting together anxiously. Something in her expression set off warning bells in Enrique's mind. "Thank God you're here," Dora breathed, moving to intercept him. "Enrique, wait. There's something you need to know before you go in. Are they healthy?" His voice was sharp with concern. "Ella and the twins? They're all physically fine, but..." Dora's voice trembled. She grabbed his arm, her fingers digging in desperately. "Please, just give me a minute to explain. You need to be prepared for..." "Dora, I've waited 9 months for this moment." Enrique gently, but firmly removed her hand. "Whatever it is can wait." "No, it really can't," she whispered, but he was already pushing open the door. The weight of unspoken words hung heavy in the air as Enrique stepped into the private suite. The afternoon sun filtered through expensive curtains, another of his donations, casting a warm glow that should have made the moment perfect. Instead, it illuminated a scene that would forever change his life. The first thing Enrique noticed was Arturo Lee's presence. The Japanese language teacher stood too close to Ella's bed, his hand resting possessively on the railing. Their eyes met briefly before Arturo looked away, guilt and defiance warring in his expression. Ella lay propped up against pristine pillows, her carefully maintained appearance now undone by labor. She held 2 blanket-wrapped bundles, but something in her posture spoke of fear rather than joy. The room felt charged with tension, like the moment before lightning strikes. "Enrique," Ella's voice wavered. "You made it." I wasn't sure you would." He moved closer, his businessman's instinct for detecting deception screaming warnings. Then he saw the babies, and understanding crashed through him like a physical blow. The first child had his olive complexion, a perfect blend of his Hispanic and Italian heritage. Dark eyes, his father's eyes, gazed up at him with innocent trust. But the second baby, Enrique's jaw clenched as he stared at distinctly Asian features, a complexion that matched Arturo's exactly. A year of memories flashed through his mind, taking on new, twisted meaning. The weekly language lessons that often ran late. The cultural exchange dinners where Ella and Arturo had sat too close, laughed too intimately. The gallery events where she'd insisted on featuring Japanese art, with Arturo as the honored consultant. Every moment had been a carefully constructed lie. I can explain, Ella began, tears streaming down her face. Please just listen. You were always so busy, so focused on your empire. Arturo understood me, my passion for art and culture. We never meant to. To what? Enrique's voice was soft, but carried the weight of steel. To lie? To betray? To make a fool of me in my own home? His hands were steady as he pulled out his phone, mind already racing through necessary steps. He'd built his fortune by staying calm in crises, by thinking 3 moves ahead. Arturo stepped forward, his arrogance evident even now. These situations, they're complicated. Emotions don't follow rules or business plans. What Ella and I share is about to cost you everything. Enrique cut him off coldly. Your position at the cultural center, your reputation in the community, your marriage to Jane, your relationship with your children, all gone. Was it worth it? That's not fair, Ella protested weakly. We fell in love. You can't punish everyone just because you couldn't keep your legs closed? A new voice interrupted from the doorway. Jane Carlson, Arturo's wife, stood there, her elegant features twisted with fury. Because you both decided your love was more important than your marriages, your families, your responsibilities? Arturo paled. Jane, I can explain. Save it. Jane's voice cracked like a whip. The kids and I are already gone. They saw the text on your phone last week. 16 years of marriage, and you couldn't even hide your affair properly. The texts? Ella's face went white. You said you were being careful. Oh, this is rich, Jane laughed bitterly. Worried about the evidence trail now? Too late. Those language practice messages on your special app? My son's quite good with technology. He recovered everything. The hospital lobby felt surreal as Enrique sat in one of the premium leather chairs he'd donated, his phone pressed to his ear. Gordon Lehman answered on the second ring, his voice crisp and professional despite the late hour. Everything's in motion, Gordon reported. Judge Chun signed the emergency orders. Nothing leaves that hospital room without our approval. I've got teams securing documents and devices at both houses. Good. Enrique's voice remained steady. What about the financial angles? Already on it. The gallery's accounts are frozen. That special savings account they opened? Documented. The cultural center grant money? Being audited. They thought they were clever, but they left breadcrumbs everywhere. Dora found him there after he ended the call, sinking into the chair opposite him. Her usual confidence had crumbled, replaced by guilt and concern. I should have told you sooner, she admitted. There were signs. The way they looked at each other during family dinners. How she always needed extra lessons before important gallery events. Last month, I saw them at Sibo's when Ella was supposed to be at a dealer's meeting. Why didn't you come to me? There was no anger in his voice, just curiosity. Would you have believed me? Ella had everyone fooled. The perfect gallery owner, the devoted wife expanding her cultural horizons. Even our parents thought she could do no wrong. Dora ran a hand through her disheveled hair. I needed proof, something concrete. I started following her last week, taking photos, but the twins made their own proof. Enrique's phone buzzed again. Another message from Jane. Her legal team wanted to coordinate strategies. Smart woman. Gordon appeared through the lobby doors, immaculate despite the late hour. The press will get wind of this soon, he warned. A prominent businessman, a cultural ambassador, a respected gallery owner. It's too juicy to ignore. Let them come. Enrique stood straightening his tie. Every hour I spent building my business is documented. Every dinner I arranged, every gallery event I attended, every donation I made to support her dreams. While they were plotting their deception, I was creating a record of devotion they can't dispute. They'll try to paint you as the distant husband, Dora warned. The workaholic who drove her to another man's arms. Let them try. Enrique's smile was cold. I have security footage from the gallery showing their private viewings after hours. Bank records of hotel bookings. Their cute little language app that documented every secret meeting. They thought I was too busy to notice? I notice everything. It's how I built my empire. Gordon's phone chimed. Judson wants to see us first thing tomorrow. Are you ready for this to get ugly? It already is. Enrique looked toward the elevator that would take him back to room 342, where his only son, waited. But they're about to learn the difference between ugly and ruthless. The first rays of dawn were breaking over San Francisco as they walked toward the elevator, casting long shadows through the lobby windows. In the maternity ward above, Ella and Arturo probably thought they could still salvage something from the wreckage of their choices. They were wrong. You know, Doris said quietly as they waited for the elevator. Mom and Dad are going to be devastated. They treated Ella like a daughter. They'll survive. We all will. Enrique's expression softened slightly. Thank you, by the way, for trying to protect me, even if you weren't sure how. What are you going to name him? She asked. Your son? Enrique considered for a moment. Marcus, he decided. After Dad. A strong name for a strong legacy. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Now, let's go show them what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. The sun continued its rise over the city, marking the beginning of a new day and the end of a marriage built on lies. In the coming hours, the carefully constructed world of deception would crumble, but Enrique Dawson was ready. He'd built an empire by turning challenges into opportunities. This betrayal would be no different. Somewhere above them, in room 342, two babies slept peacefully, unaware that their births had sparked the beginning of a war. But unlike the battles Enrique had fought in boardrooms and real estate deals, this one would be won not with contracts and negotiations, but with truth, cold, hard, and irrefutable. Gordon Lehman's corner office overlooked San Francisco Bay, but today the prestigious attorney's attention was fixed on Russ Park's preliminary findings. The private investigator's reputation for thoroughness had earned him both admirers and enemies throughout California. Start from the beginning, Enrique directed, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. 2 weeks had passed since the hospital revelation, and he'd used that time to secure his position. His son, Marcus, was safe at home with a thoroughly vetted nurse, while his business empire continued to thrive under his focused leadership. Russ opened his laptop, displaying a series of screenshots. They thought they were clever using a language learning app called Lingomate. It's legitimate software used by thousands of students, but they used it to exchange coded messages disguised as practice conversations. He pulled up several examples. Asterisk sensei. How do I say, meet me at our special place in Japanese? Asterisk. Asterisk, the tea ceremony requires patience and discretion. Asterisk. Asterisk, traditional meetings happen at sunset when the cherry blossoms fall. Asterisk. Each message corresponded with hotel bookings in Arturo's name. Russ continued, displaying credit card statements. The Fairmont, the Four Seasons, all paid for with funds from the Cultural Center's educational outreach budget. Gordon's eyebrows rose. That's misappropriation of nonprofit funds. The IRS will be very interested. It gets better, Russ smirked, pulling up bank records. Mrs. Dawson opened a separate savings account 6 months ago. She's been transferring money from the gallery's operational budget, money Mr. Dawson provided for expansion, into this account. Nearly $200,000 so far. Enrique's expression remained neutral, but his fingers tapped once on the armrest, the only sign of his anger. They were planning to leave. Based on their messages, yes. They had a whole escape plan. After the twins were born, they'd wait until you were occupied with a major deal, then disappear. The money, the prepared documents we found in their secret email accounts. They were heading to Kyoto, where Arturo conveniently has family, Gordon added. And limited extradition laws. Show me everything, Enrique commanded. Every message, every transaction, every lie. For the next hour, Russ methodically laid out the betrayal's full scope. Hotel receipts matched with Ella's late-night gallery events. Restaurant charges corresponded with supposed language lessons. Everything had been documented, archived, and cross-referenced. There's more, Russ said finally. Arturo's been embezzling from the cultural center for years. Small amounts well hidden, but it adds up. He used the money to buy art pieces for Ella's gallery, inflated the prices, skimmed the difference. Gordon was already making notes. That gives us leverage with the cultural center's board. They won't want this public. What about his wife? Enrique asked. Jane's been cooperating? She's been invaluable, Russ confirmed. Their kids found text messages last week, but she'd suspected for months. She's provided years of financial records, personal calendars, everything. Her son's quite the computer whiz. Recovered deleted messages we wouldn't have found otherwise. Enrique stood, walking to the window. The bay glittered below, unchanged by the revelations unfolding above it. They thought I was too focused on business to notice, he said quietly. Too wrapped up in deals and developments to see what was happening in my own home. That works in our favor, Gordon pointed out. Every hour you spent building your empire is documented. Every dinner you arranged, every gallery event you attended. It's all evidence of your dedication while they were plotting behind your back. Schedule the confrontation, Enrique decided, turning back to face them. Here in this office. I want them to see exactly what they're losing. The hospital conference room crackled with tension as the parties assembled. Enrique sat with Gordon, his posture relaxed but radiating authority. Across the table, Ella perched nervously beside her attorney, Sherry Berger, a shark in designer clothes who specialized in representing wealthy wives and divorces. Arturo attended via video call, his usual arrogance dimmed by the circumstances. His own divorce proceedings with Jane were already underway, and the Cultural Center's board had placed him on administrative leave pending investigation. Before we begin, Sherry started, her voice honey smooth. My client wants to express her sincere. Save it. Gordon cut in. We're not here for apologies. We're here to outline consequences. That's unnecessarily hostile, Sherry protested. My client understands the situation is complicated. She's prepared to be reasonable about. Reasonable? Gordon's laugh was arctic. Let's talk about reasonable, Ms. Berger. Your client committed paternity fraud, misappropriated marital funds, and conspired to flee the country with embezzled money. Mr. Le, he addressed the screen, I assume you're prepared for the civil suits my client will be filing? Not to mention the criminal charges the Cultural Center is considering. Arturo's face paled on the screen. His attorney, visible in the background, was frantically taking notes. Those are baseless accusations, Sherry declared, but Ella's expression had crumpled. Are they? Enrique spoke for the first time, his voice controlled. He nodded to Gordon, who began distributing thick folders of evidence. Every message you exchanged. Every hotel booking. Every misappropriated dollar. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? We never meant to hurt anyone, Ella whispered, tears forming. We fell in love. You can't punish us for love. Enrique's laugh was cold. Was it love when you stole from the gallery I bought for you? When you planned to separate my son from his father? When you made a mockery of every sacrifice I made for our marriage? You were never there. Ella burst out. Always working, always focused on the next deal. Arturo understood me, my passion for art and culture. He understood how to exploit my wife while stealing my money, Enrique corrected quietly. Tell me, was the Cultural Center grant I arranged part of your passion too? The one you used to fund your hotel meetings? Arturo finally spoke, his voice tinny through the video feed. You can't prove any of this. The messages were private, the accounts were accessed by your son, Gordon interrupted smoothly. Quite the talented young man. He recovered everything you thought you deleted. Would you like to see? He slid another folder across the table, this one containing printed screenshots of explicit messages, bank transfers, and hotel confirmations. Ella's face went white as she flipped through the pages. Now, Gordon continued, here's how this ends. Mr. Dawson gets full custody of his son. The gallery's ownership reverts to him. It was purchased with marital funds, after all. Mrs. Dawson signs a non-disclosure agreement and walks away with a settlement that will keep her comfortable, provided she relocates outside California. That's ridiculous, Sherry sputtered. My client has rights. The gallery is her life's work, her passion. Her passion appears to be fraud, Gordon noted dryly. Would you like me to share the evidence of art price inflation with the FBI's white-collar crime division? I'm sure they'd be fascinated by the Cultural Center's creative bookkeeping. The scandal exploded through San Francisco's social circles like a tsunami. The story had everything: wealth, betrayal, cultural prestige, and the delicious spectacle of the mighty falling hard. Ella and Arturo, once respected pillars of the community, became cautionary tales whispered about at charity galas and board meetings. The Cultural Center's emergency board meeting lasted 6 hours. By the end, Arturo's resignation had been accepted, his achievements scrubbed from their website, and a full audit of their finances was underway. His dreams of cultural ambassadorship lay in ruins. His reputation destroyed, not by the affair itself, but by the financial misconduct that had funded it. Ella's social death was equally complete. Gallery owners who had once competed for her attention now returned her calls to assistance. Charity boards quietly dropped her name from committees. Even her art world connections evaporated once word spread about the fraudulent pricing schemes. One rainy afternoon, Enrique met Jane for coffee at a discreet cafe in Pacific Heights. She looked elegant as ever, but tired around the eyes. "The kids are struggling," she admitted, stirring her untouched latte. "Kevin's angry. He's the one who found the messages. Sarah won't even look at her father's calls. They feel like their whole childhood was a lie. They're strong," Enrique observed. "Like their mother." Jane's laugh was bitter. "They made us look like fools. While we worked to build our families, they were destroying them. The worst part? They're not even sorry. Not really. They're just sorry they got caught. How are you holding up?" "Better than expected." The Cultural Center Board offered me Arturo's position. Apparently, my art history degree and connections make me uniquely qualified to repair their reputation. She met Enrique's eyes. I said yes. It feels right somehow. Taking back what he tried to destroy. They spent the afternoon sharing information, strengthening both their legal cases. Jane's children had agreed to provide testimony about their father's character. Years of missed events and broken promises now cast in a darker light by his betrayal. You know what's ironic? Jane mused as rain drummed against the windows. They thought they were living some great romance, but they couldn't even do betrayal properly. Every secret meeting, every stolen moment, they left evidence everywhere. Hotel receipts, bank transfers, messages. It's like they wanted to get caught. They got careless, Enrique agreed. They thought love would protect them from consequences. Love, Jane scoffed. Is that what they're calling selfishness these days? As they parted ways, the rain had stopped, leaving the city washed clean. Jane paused before getting into her car. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for not letting them spin this into some tragic love story. They don't deserve that kind of dignity." Enrique nodded, understanding perfectly. In the end, it wasn't about revenge or punishment. It was about truth, cold, hard, and irrefutable. The truth of their betrayal, their theft, their planned abandonment. The truth that would ensure their actions followed them forever. A cautionary tale for anyone who mistook patience for weakness or love for permission to destroy lives. The sun broke through the clouds as he drove home, where his son waited. Marcus was too young to understand the storm surrounding his birth, but someday he would know the truth. Not a story of tragic love or justified betrayal, but one of consequences, swift, merciless, and absolute. It was the only legacy Ella and Arturo deserved. The morning sun streamed through Gordon Lehman's office windows as he laid out the legal strategy that would destroy Ella and Arturo's lives. 3 months had passed since the hospital confrontation, and every day had brought new evidence of their deception. The paternity test results arrived, Gordon announced, sliding a document across his mahogany desk. Though we hardly needed them, given the visual evidence. Enrique scanned the results, his expression unchanged. The DNA confirmation of what he'd known since that first moment in the hospital. He was father to only one of the twins. Marcus, his son, carried his blood. The other child, a girl Ella had named May, was undeniably Arturo's. "This strengthens our position considerably," Gordon continued. "By refusing to sign the birth certificates that day, you've protected yourself from any future claims regarding May. Ella can't touch you for child support What about the gallery? Enrique's voice was cold, calculating. That's where it gets interesting. Gordon pulled out a thick file. We've traced every penny. The initial purchase, the renovations, the inventory, all paid for with marital funds. More specifically, with your money. Ella's contribution was limited to her expertise in art selection, which we now know involved inflated prices and kickbacks from certain dealers. A knock at the door preceded the arrival of Russ Park, the private investigator whose thorough work had uncovered the depth of their betrayal. You're going to want to see this, he said, placing his laptop on the desk. The financial audit of the Cultural Center just came back. The numbers told a damning story. Arturo had been systematically embezzling funds for years, disguising personal expenses as cultural outreach programs. Hotel meetings with Ella appeared as cultural seminars. Expensive dinners were logged as community engagement events. The board is livid, Russ reported. They're not just firing him, they're pressing criminal charges. The DA's office is already involved. Gordon's smile was predatory. Perfect timing. Jane's divorce proceedings are scheduled for next week. This will destroy any chance of Arturo claiming alimony or significant assets. What about his visa? Enrique asked. His work sponsorship is through the Cultural Center. Once they formally terminate him, Gordon let the implication hang. The door opened again, admitting Sarah Chun, Enrique's corporate counsel. The gallery's financial audit is complete, she announced. We found everything. The secret accounts, the fraudulent art deals, even evidence of tax evasion. Ella was skimming money from every transaction, planning her escape fund. Enrique stood, walking to the window. Below, San Francisco continued its daily rhythm, unaware of the justice being methodically arranged in this office. Send everything to the IRS, he commanded. Let's make this completely official. There's more, Sarah added. Remember those Japanese investors Ella brought in last year? The ones who paid premium prices for specific pieces? We traced the money. It all leads back to Arturo's family accounts in Kyoto. They were helping launder the Cultural Center funds. Gordon whistled softly. International financial fraud. That adds a whole new dimension to the criminal charges. What about custody? Enrique turned back to face them. Marcus is my priority. Already handled, Gordon assured him. Given the evidence of their planned escape to Japan, no judge will risk them having the opportunity to flee with either child. We're pushing for full custody of Marcus for you, with Ella getting supervised visitation at best. May will likely go with Ella, but we're recommending complete separation of the twins, given the toxic circumstances. A soft chime from Enrique's phone announced a message from Jane. Her divorce proceedings had begun, and her children's testimony about their father's character had been devastating. Years of missed events and broken promises, now cast in an even darker light by his betrayal. How are they handling it? Enrique asked Gordon. Ella and Arturo? Falling apart, Russ answered instead. Ella's attorney tried to paint you as the distant, workaholic husband, but we shut that down fast. Every business dinner you arranged, every gallery event you attended, every donation you made to support her dreams, it's all documented. Meanwhile, we have proof she was meeting Arturo during the events you sponsored. She's getting desperate, Sarah added. Tried to claim partial ownership of your real estate holdings since she supported your career. Judge laughed it out of court. Gordon gathered the documents into organized piles. They wanted a fairy tale ending, he observed, reviewing the settlement terms. Instead, they're getting a cautionary tale. The gallery, her social standing, his career. Everything they built on lies is crumbling. The divorces were finalized with ruthless efficiency. The courtroom sat silent as Judge Chen delivered her ruling, her voice carrying the weight of justice long overdue. In the matter of Dawson versus Costello, she began, this court finds overwhelming evidence of marital misconduct, financial fraud, and attempted parental kidnapping. The gallery, purchased and maintained with marital funds, is awarded to Mr. Dawson. Ms. Costello's claims to any portion of Mr. Dawson's business holdings are denied. Ella sat with her attorney, her designer clothes now seeming like a costume rather than a reflection of status. Her attempt at an elegant, wronged woman facade had crumbled under the weight of evidence. Regarding custody, Judge Chen continued. Given the documented plan to flee the country with both children, this court awards full custody of Marcus Dawson to his father. Ms. Costello will have supervised visitation rights, pending completion of psychiatric evaluation and parenting classes. Across the aisle, Arturo watched his own life disintegrate. The cultural center had not only dismissed him, but was pursuing criminal charges for embezzlement. His visa sponsorship was revoked, requiring his return to Japan within 30 days. In the related matter of custody regarding Mei Lu, the judge addressed Ella. You are granted primary custody. However, this court orders strict separation of the twins, citing the toxic nature of parental relationships and risk of flight. Any attempts to circumvent this order will result in immediate loss of all custody rights. The gallery's ownership transfer was immediate. Security teams changed the locks while Ella was still in court, her personal items packed and waiting in boxes. Her social circle, already strained by scandal, completely dissolved as evidence of her financial misconduct became public record. Jane's divorce proceedings ended similarly. Arturo lost everything: his position, his reputation, his family. Their teenage children refused to speak to him, their testimony about his character devastating any chance of shared custody. Sometimes justice comes in unexpected ways, Jane told Enrique as they watched their former spouses leave the courthouse separately, each carrying the weight of their choices. 1 year later, Enrique stood in his home office, watching the sun set over San Francisco. Marcus, now a thriving toddler, slept peacefully in the nursery next door, monitored by state-of-the-art security systems. The betrayal that could have destroyed him had instead stripped away illusions, leaving something stronger in their wake. The gallery, rebranded under his management, had flourished. He'd hired Jane as his business partner, her art world connections and genuine passion for culture proving invaluable. Together, they transformed the space into a respected institution, one built on integrity rather than fraud. Occasional updates about Ella filtered through their remaining mutual connections. She struggled as a part-time art teacher, her reputation in the art world permanently tainted by the scandal. Her supervised visits with Marcus were mechanical, overseen by court-appointed observers who noted her increasing bitterness. Arturo's fall had been even harder. Back in Japan, he taught English in a small town, his dreams of cultural ambassadorship shattered. His attempts to maintain relationships with his teenage children were met with silence. They'd chosen to change their surname, rejecting any connection to the man who destroyed their family. The last piece of mail Enrique received from Ella lay unopened in his desk drawer. Another plea for reconciliation, no doubt. Another attempt to explain the inexplicable. He had no interest in her justifications or regrets. That evening, he walked through the gallery, pausing at a new installation, a series of photographs depicting transformation and rebirth. The irony wasn't lost on him. Ready for dinner? Jane's voice came from behind him. She stood with her children, who had grown close to both him and Marcus over the past year. The kids want to show you their art projects? Enrique smiled, recognizing that sometimes life's cruelest moments led to unexpected blessings. The family he had now, his son, Jane's children who adored him, the honest relationship they were building, was worth more than any illusion he'd lost. Yes, he said, taking her hand. Let's go home. They walked out together, leaving behind the ghosts of betrayal. His revenge hadn't been in destroying Ella and Arturo. They had done that themselves. His triumph was in rising above their deception to build something better, something real. The gallery lights dimmed automatically as they left, illuminating one final truth. True love speaks the language of honesty, and real family is built on trust, not lies. In the end, that was the only lesson worth keeping from the wreckage of his first marriage, and the foundation upon which he would build his future. Epilogue, 10 years later. The crisp San Francisco evening painted the downtown skyline in shades of gold and crimson as Enrique Dawson, now 48, stood atop his newest development, a gleaming 50-story tower that dominated the financial district. His real estate empire had tripled in the decades since that fateful day in the hospital, but his greatest achievements had nothing to do with business. Marcus, now 12, showed the same sharp intelligence and unwavering integrity that had guided his father through life's darkest moments. The boy's olive complexion and dark eyes mirrored Enrique's, but his passion for art came from a purer source: Jane's patient mentoring over the years they'd been a family. The Dawson Contemporary Arts Gallery had become an international powerhouse under their joint leadership. Jane's artistic vision combined with Enrique's business acumen had transformed the space from a monument of betrayal into a beacon of cultural innovation. Their marriage, celebrated 5 years after their respective divorces, stood as proof that genuine love could rise from the ashes of deception. Kevin and Sarah Carlson, now 27 and 25, had flourished in the decades since their father's betrayal. Kevin's technology skills led him to Silicon Valley, where he developed security software for financial institutions, inspired by the evidence-gathering techniques he'd used to expose his father's affair. Sarah followed Jane's footsteps into the art world, earning her curator's position at Dawson Contemporary through merit rather than nepotism. The years had been far less kind to those who had chosen betrayal over loyalty. Ella Costello's descent continued long after the divorce. Her attempts to rebuild her reputation in the art world met with consistent failure. The fraud charges, though eventually settled through plea agreements, had permanently tainted her name. Art schools rejected her applications, galleries shunned her expertise, and even community centers grew wary of her involvement. Recent reports placed her in Portland, Oregon, teaching basic art classes at a senior center. Her supervised visits with Marcus had grown increasingly strained until, at age 10, he had exercised his legal right to decline them. Her last attempt to contact him, a tear-stained letter on his 12th birthday, was returned unopened like all the others before it. She tried reaching out through my Instagram last month, Marcus told Enrique during their weekly father-son dinner. Said she wanted to explain her side of the story, as if there could be any justification for what she planned to do. Enrique had studied his son's expression, seeing the same steel that had helped him survive his own trials. "And what did you tell her?" "Nothing," Marcus had replied, his voice firm. "She made her choice 10 years ago. She chose him over her family. Over me. Actions have consequences. Isn't that what you always say?" Arturo Lee's fall from grace proved even more spectacular. After his deportation to Japan, he'd attempted to leverage his family connections to rebuild his career. Instead, he discovered that news of his crimes had preceded him. The Japanese cultural community, with its emphasis on honor and propriety, had no place for someone who had betrayed both his family and his professional trust. His attempt to open an English-language school in Kyoto failed when parents discovered his background. The small rural town where he eventually settled barely provided enough students to sustain his meager lifestyle. His children's rejection of his surname had been formalized years ago. The Le family name now existed only on his passport and teaching credentials. He tried contacting me through LinkedIn, Kevin shared during a recent family dinner. Wanted to explain himself and rebuild our relationship. Said he had grown from his mistakes. "What growth?" Sarah had scoffed. "Last I heard, he was still blaming everyone else for his choices. Mom for not understanding him. Dad for being too focused on business. Even us for betraying him by telling the truth." The mention of May, Arturo and Ella's daughter, brought complicated expressions to everyone's faces. The court-ordered separation of the twins had been maintained strictly over the years. Occasional reports through legal channels indicated she lived with Ella, her existence a constant reminder of choices that had destroyed multiple families. "She looks like him," Marcus said once after glimpsing a social media photo. "But that's all we share. We're not really siblings. We're just two kids who happen to be born on the same day, to people who chose lies over love." Dora Marks had risen to become one of San Francisco's most respected banking executives. Her early suspicions about Ella and Arturo, though painfully vindicated, had transformed her into a fierce protector of her brother's new family. Her relationship with Jane grew into a genuine friendship, strengthened by their shared understanding of betrayal's cost. The Cultural Center had flourished under Jane's leadership. Her emphasis on authentic cultural exchange and transparent operations restored its reputation in the community. The scandal that had once threatened its existence became a case study in institutional recovery, taught in nonprofit management courses. Gordon Lehman's handling of the cases brought him even greater professional acclaim. His meticulous dismantling of Ella and Arturo's schemes was now required reading at law schools. He remained a trusted advisor to the Dawson family, his ruthless efficiency in protecting their interests unchanged by time. Russ Park's private investigation firm grew into the city's most sought-after corporate security consultancy. The techniques he developed to uncover the affair's financial trails led to innovations in fraud detection. His son interned with Kevin's software company, developing next-generation security protocols. On this particular evening, the extended family gathered at the Dawson residence to celebrate Marcus's academic achievements. The dining room buzzed with a warm conversation of people bound not by obligation, but by choice and loyalty. "You know what I realized?" Jane said quietly to Enrique as they watched their blended family interact. "Everything they tried to steal, love, success, happiness, we built naturally. While they're still haunted by their choices, we're celebrating our blessings." Enrique squeezed her hand, wedding band glinting in the soft light. The betrayal that could have broken him had instead revealed the true meaning of family. Marcus chatted animatedly with his step-siblings about his latest art project. Kevin discussed his company's expansion plans with Gordon. Sarah and Dora debated upcoming gallery acquisitions. This was his real triumph. Not the destruction of those who had betrayed him, but the creation of something stronger from the wreckage they'd left behind. His son would grow up surrounded by examples of integrity, watching people who chose truth over deception, honor over convenience. Later that night, as the city lights twinkled below their hillside home, Enrique reflected on the decade's journey. The pain of betrayal had long since faded, replaced by appreciation for the family he'd found in its aftermath. Ella and Arturo's choices had cost them everything: careers, reputations, relationships, while he had gained more than he'd ever imagined possible. Marcus's voice drifted up from the garden, where he was showing Kevin his latest photography project. The boy's talent, nurtured by Jane's guidance, promised to redeem art as a force for truth rather than deception in the Dawson legacy. "Ready for bed?" Jane joined him on the balcony, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Just thinking," he replied, "about choices and consequences, about how sometimes the worst moments lead us to the best ones." She understood, as she always did. They had both survived betrayal to find something real, a love built on honesty, a family forged in truth. While Ella and Arturo's lies had earned them nothing but regret, their own commitment to integrity had created a legacy worth preserving. The final letter from Ella remained unopened in his office drawer, a reminder that some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. The future belonged to those who chose truth, who faced life's trials with dignity rather than deception. As San Francisco's lights sparkled below, Enrique Dawson held his wife close, listening to the sounds of their family inside. The language of betrayal had taught him its harsh lessons, but the poetry of redemption had written a far better story. Sometimes justice came in unexpected ways. Sometimes loss led to greater gains. And sometimes the deepest wounds carved paths to the richest blessings, if one had the strength to walk them with honor. That was the real story, not of revenge or retribution, but of rising above betrayal to build something true, something lasting, something real. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.